Hey friends, tonight we're drifting back to a time when the air carried the scent of coal smoke, horse hooves echoed through crowded streets, and indoor plumbing was still a distant dream. Let your shoulders loosen. Let your breath soften, because we're about to wander quietly into Victorian Manchester, around the year 1842, a city growing so fast it can barely understand itself. Before we begin, if you enjoy these slow journeys into the past, feel free to like the video and subscribe. No pressure, only if it feels right to you. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? Now, dim the lights. Turn on a soft fan if you like that steady hum. Let the world around you settle, and together we'll step gently into another time. Arriving in Manchester, you arrive just as the sun is rising, though you'd hardly know it. The light struggles to slip between the tall, smoke-darkened buildings. The air is heavy, almost warm, too. The touch thick with soot and the damp breath of the River Irwell. Coal, wet brick, horse manure, and something else. Yesterday's waste hangs faintly in the background. You move from the cobbled street to a narrow passage squeezed between buildings that lean in like old companions. A low haze sits above the rooftops, catching the morning sun in a muted, sleepy orange glow. This is Manchester, the heart of industrial England, a city humming, wheezing, and expanding faster than it knows how to breathe. Walking into the city's heart, the street is already awake, not in a cheerful way, but in the way of something overfull. Someone is shouting about bread. Children cry somewhere close by. A door creaks open. Another slams shut as you walk. You notice the buildings have a kind of weary posture, wood swollen from endless damp, bricks loose underfoot. Rain never quite dries here. Smoke never quite lifts. Manchester is a contradiction, a place where magnificent factories roar with life, while tiny homes sag under the weight of too many dreams packed too tightly together. Your boots splash through shallow gutters. The water is murky, brownish. Best not to think too hard about it. A plump, confident rat strolls past you, unbothered, like a long-time resident who knows every alley and secret corner. The city grew too fast. That's what everyone says, from quiet market town to industrial giant, in only a few decades. And no one, not the landlords, not the planners, not the government, was ready for the people who poured in. Entering the slums, the courts, just a few blocks from the main road, the city changes. Buildings press closer. Light becomes thinner. Air moves slower. You step beneath a low archway and into a place called a corda. Tiny, enclosed community, surrounded on all sides by houses with only one narrow entrance. Once you're inside, you feel the city fall away almost instantly. It's quieter here, but not peaceful, more like the hush that follows too many people living too close together. A man passes you, muttering softly, a little girl clutching his coat. Her feet are bare, despite the October chill. She disappears down a set of damp stone steps into a basement dwelling. Poor families often lived below street level. Dark rooms with wet floors, no sunlight, little air. Homes where illness grew as easily as mold. In some parts of the city, nearly half of all children would not live past the age of 5. A quiet statistic that seems to echo in every shadowed corner. Life, noise, and necessity. Cough rings out from an upstairs window. The woman leans out, spits into the gutter, and closes the shutter again. It's not rude here. It's normal. Tuberculosis, typhus, cholera. These names slip through the slums like familiar visitors, but still, people laugh. People fall in love. People tell stories. Even in the harshest corners of the city, life finds its own soft rhythms. A wagon rattles past carrying coal, and a still, silent shape beneath a tarp. Death is not hidden here. It's simply a part of the day's landscape. And yet, somehow, people keep going. A strange folklore moment. Not all stories here are dark. Manchester once had an unofficial dog tax collector, a harmless local character who wandered the streets, politely collecting imaginary taxes from dog owners. He even handed out handmade receipts. Some said he believed it. Others said he simply liked the company. The slums, for all their hardships, carried their own small wonders. A quiet debate for the age's historians still argue, did the Industrial Revolution make life better or worse? Wages rose a little. Opportunities grew, sometimes, but compared to the countryside's fresh air and slower life, the city could feel crushing. No one agrees, and maybe no one needs to. Walking through these courts, you simply feel the truth of both sides. You return to the main streets. Stepping out of the court feels like surfacing from underwater. The light seems brighter, the air moves differently, and yet something is already calling you back inside, because this is where your journey continues, in the small rooms, narrow stairways, and shared walls of the people who lived here. Soon you'll meet the family you'll be staying with. Their home is small, crowded, warm in its own determined way. But for now, take a breath. Let the hum of early morning settle around you. Factories stir in the distance, a soft, mechanical heartbeat. Chimneys puff out threads of gray smoke that drift lazily upward. The city takes a long, slow breath, and so do you. This is where our story continues, gently, slowly, one quiet step at a time. There's a rhythm to the neighborhood, a soft, almost musical pulse that only someone like Mary can hear. Above you, slow footsteps creak across worn floorboards. The bricklayer, leaving for his early shift. Somewhere in the alley, a coal cart murmurs past. Your 5-minute warning, like a quiet nudge from the morning itself. Mary moves with the sigh of someone who's done this too many times. She dresses in a threadbare gown, a shawl with little holes that have stories of their own, and boots gently stuffed with paper to soften the places where the soles are more memory than leather. She rubs the sleep from her eyes, ties back her hair with a simple bit of string, and then she looks at you with that gentle, unspoken expression that means, come along, and somehow you realize you're going with her. Outside, the air has that soft, cold bite, the kind that slips through every layer and reminds you the day is still waking up. Mist hangs low against the buildings, thin as breath on a window. The cobbles glisten with last night's drizzle and whatever the city left behind. The sky is a pale wash of ash gray, and the fog curls lazily around chimneys and rooftops, as if Manchester itself is reluctant to rise. You move through rows of narrow brick houses, nearly identical, each one a little weary with soot and time. Some doors stand open like tired mouths, revealing rooms no bigger than a cupboard. Others are shut tight, cloth pushed into cracks to keep out the cold. You can smell onions frying somewhere, and coal smoke, and something chemical, sharp enough to prickle the back of your nose. Manchester is a bowl of scents, and not all of them are kind. Mary walks quickly, with the ease of someone who's learned this route by heart. She's been doing this nearly a year now, another small thread woven into the thousands of children working in mills across the city. Here, childhood is not an age, it's a luxury. The mill reveals itself through the fog as the factory bell groans awake, a long, heavy sound that rolls across the streets like a warning. The building rises before you, tall brick and unmoving, its windows dark and watchful, its chimneys pouring smoke into the pale morning dot inside. The noise meets you like a wall. It's constant, endless, a clattering, grinding heartbeat that fills every corner of the place. You feel it in your teeth, in your chest, in the soles of your feet. Mary slips naturally into her place at a row of spinning frames, her fingers moving with small, practiced motions as she threads snapped cotton again and again. Children do this work because their hands fit where adults cannot. Efficiency over safety, always around you. Shapes move in soft clouds of cotton dust, faces pale, eyes tired, lungs filled with the same floating fibers. The air shimmers with tiny threads dancing in the weak light. You see a boy coughing so hard his whole body folds inward, but he doesn't stop working. No one does. This is simply the sound of life here. Hours drift by, soft as gray water. Machines hum and clatter. Workers move like silent ghosts, and time seems to melt into the steady rhythm of the mill at last. A whistle sighs, a long release, and the machines fall silent, one by one, like great beasts settling into sleep. Mary wipes her hands on her dress, eyes red and nose running, and the two of you step back into the cooling dusk. You walk home together, without a word, just the gentle sound of footsteps on wet stones and the distant glow of fires burning in alleyways. Manchester feels softer now, dimmed around the edges. Back in the room, Agnes meets Mary with a quiet, tired sigh. She washes the blisters on her daughter's hands with vinegar, wraps them in cloth torn from an old pillowcase, and doesn't say much. There's a kind of love here that speaks without talking. Sleep comes slowly tonight, soft and heavy, like soot drifting down from the sky. You wake to coughs, deep, rattling coughs, coming through walls and floors, like part of the building's own breath. The morning light is thin and bluish, barely a suggestion across cracked windows. Mary is already gone. Her footsteps were quieter today. Or maybe you're just more tired outside. The air tastes like warm metal and cold ash. Soot rests on everything. Your sleeves, your hair, the windowsills, the breath in your lungs. Manchester's chimneys have been awake long before you were. You follow the fog. You follow the fog to one of the district's great mills. Inside, the air is thicker than yesterday. Cotton dust drifts like pale snow, catching in the light, catching in your throat. Everyone is coughing. It's the music of the mill. A chorus. No one acknowledges, just part of the day. Some workers believe molasses helps a sweet little lie swallowed before a long shift. It doesn't cure anything, but it gives them a taste of something soft. There's a tiny room at the back labeled hospital, though the word feels too big for a space that small. A boy lies on a cot, shivering, and the nurse, missing 3 fingers from the looms, shakes her head gently. Consumption, she whispers. It takes many here. When you leave the mill and step back into the open air, your lungs ache, but still, the outside feels lighter, almost kind in the streets. People beat dust from rugs, dogs wander between puddles, and the soft evening settles like a blanket over the courts. Inside the slum room, Agnes boils scraps of herbs in a pot, hoping to ease the children's coughing. She works quietly, steadily, as though this is simply what life asks of her. The soot settles into your clothing, into your hair, into your thoughts. Tonight, when you close your eyes, you'll still hear the machines, a soft, distant rumble, like the echo of some heavy dream that hasn't yet faded. Night settles over Manchester in that heavy, familiar way. Not quiet in a peaceful sense, but quiet the way a held breath is quiet. The sky hangs low, a murky purple pressed down by thick clouds, and the fog, the city's old companion, has crept in until it feels almost solid around you. Shapes blur, footsteps echo where no one walks, and even small sounds drift strangely, as if the streets themselves are whispering. You stay close to the cold brick walls, moving from one patch of dim yellow gaslight to the next. Most of the lamps here flicker lazily, their glass globes smeared with soot, their flames too tired to offer real comfort. Ahead, at the crossroads where news and trouble tend to find each other, you see them, 2 constables moving through the fog with slow, measured confidence. Their long coats sway gently, their tall hats tilt forward with purpose. Nightsticks, polished smooth, hang at their sides like an unspoken warning. You step back, letting the shadows fold around you. Victorian constables aren't the cheerful sort often imagined in stories. Not here, not in these streets. Their job is less about protection, more about reminding those who have little to expect even less. They walk past the usual scenes, men sleeping off gin in doorways, children arguing quietly over scraps, weary couples whispering their worries beneath broken roofs. None of it stirs them, but then something does. A child runs barefoot across the cobbles, a small sack clutched against his chest. Before his breath even reaches the air, one constable has already broken into a run. The boy darts down an alley, but his path is too predictable, his fear too small to outrun training. A moment later, he collides with the second constable, who hasn't bothered to move far at all. The sack bursts open. Potatoes tumble across the stone like dull marbles. For a heartbeat, everything freezes. Maybe they'll let him go. He's so young, so frightened. But mercy isn't part of the routine tonight. A sharp strike sends him sideways. The other constable gathers the scattered potatoes, tucking them neatly under his arm. The boy curls into himself, trying to disappear beneath the weight of the moment. A door creaks open nearby. A woman peers out, face pale, eyes heavy with worry, and then closes the door again without saying a word. Silence isn't complicity here. It's survival. Later, someone will quietly mention the boy has been taken to the juvenile reformatory. 2 weeks, perhaps, or longer. It could have been worse. A workhouse, or transportation to the far side of the world. A punishment wrapped in the name reform. England's old habit of sending its problems to sea. You drift past the police station as dawn inches closer. A squat brick building with barred windows and a tired wooden sign. Inside, Faint shouts echo a rhythm of accusation and exhaustion. A man stumbles out shortly after, blood on his lip, gin on his breath, resignation in his eyes. Some people leave the station. Others never quite do. There are undercover constables, 2 silent patrols, men who blend so deeply into the city that even their neighbors forget to fear them. A different kind of watching, a quieter kind of control. Historians still argue whether these early police forces protected people or protected property. In places like this, the distinction was thin. The fog closes in again. A bottle shatters somewhere nearby. A shout follows. Then nothing, not loud enough to matter, not important enough for boots to answer. You return home through narrow courts, where doors close gently as you pass. People here have learned that quiet is safer than curiosity. Inside, Agnes sits by the cold hearth. She doesn't ask where you've been. She doesn't need to. Mary sleeps lightly. The baby breathes in small rasps. The air smells faintly of soup stretched beyond its means. And as the quiet settles, that brittle, breath-held quiet, you think of the boy, his bare feet, his small sack of potatoes. And whether he has a blanket tonight, the constables continue their rounds outside, their footsteps fading into the fog. But rest doesn't last long. A sudden cry splits the night, urgent, desperate, shaking you awake. Then the thundering of feet, the clatter of something knocked over, a brief struggle swallowed quickly by silence. Faces appear at windows. People gather in the alley. A young man lies on the ground at the center of a tight ring of bodies. Voices rise and break like waves around him. He stole a loaf, someone says. He ran. He was caught. Jacob, barely older than Mary. You know his family. You know his story. But the crowd isn't interested in stories tonight. Punishment shifts into spectacle. A kick here, a shove there. Laughter blending with anger, each breath sharper than the last. Then a voice, trembling but fierce enough. His mother pushes through, gathering her son into her arms. The men fall back, muttering. Someone tosses the ruined loaf toward her. No one helps her carry him home. The city swallows the moment quickly. Later, the streets warm into a slow gray morning. Vendors call half-heartedly over bruised fruit and tired bread. Children hover at the edges, testing luck with sticky fingers. A soup kitchen ladles out thin broth, 2 tired hands. Hunger makes its own rules, its own exceptions, its own injustices. Victorian Manchester had bread riots once, whole streets rising not for glory or politics, but for a loaf that wouldn't crumble in their hands. Some say it was a moral economy, an unspoken agreement that food should be reachable, that survival shouldn't be priced beyond ordinary life. Others say hunger erases principles long before it erases people. The day drifts on like damp smoke. Charity arrives, wearing fine boots and lavender. A woman from the Manchester Benevolent Ladies Association steps into your home as though into a museum. She offers soap wrapped in advice and pamphlets wrapped in pity. Agnes receives both in silence. Cleanliness, the visitor says, is next to godliness. But soap doesn't fill bowls, and piety doesn't pay rent. Later, at the mission house, a bowl of watery soup warms your hands. Prayers rise in practiced cadence. Children wash with lukewarm water. Tracts are handed out like currency. Help is given, but always conditionally. A meal with a moral. Comfort with a cost. You return home through the blue dusk. The preacher's voice drifts through alleyways like a tired wind inside. Agnes turns a bar of charity soap over in her hands. Think we're dirty because we're poor, she murmurs softly. Or poor because we're dirty. You don't answer. Some questions aren't meant to be solved. Only shared. Sunday brings no rest, only rituals. Church shoes on cold cobbles. Children lined up for lessons on obedience and hand-washing. Stories of faraway punishments meant to shape small minds. Everything here is routine. Everything is repetition, but the slow hush of it all, the soft drifting of voices, the gentle murmur of hymn tunes and quiet footsteps, it wraps around you like a worn blanket, thin but familiar, frail but steady, and the city, tired as it is, exhales with you. Night is a strange thing in these streets. It loosens the knots that daylight ties, softens the rules, and lets the emotions that people pack away all week finally rise to the surface. Laughter becomes a little too bright. Arguments come quicker over nothing at all, and the shadows between doorways seem to breathe just slightly, as if holding secrets of their own. You feel it before you see it, that slight tension humming through the crowd. The glint of a bottle lifted just a little too fast, the sound of a shout that lingers 1 second longer than it should. A couple stumbles past you, arms looped together, their faces flushed with drink and smoke. The man's eye is swelling, turning a gentle purple at the edges, but he's grinning like he's won a medal. The woman is laughing so hard she can barely breathe, her joy wobbling on the edge of hysteria. But the way they look at each other, like the entire world could collapse in an instant, and they still wouldn't mind. It's strangely tender. And then, as always, it begins. A small scuffle near the corner by the old well. Two boys, perhaps 16, perhaps younger, arguing about something small. A borrowed coat, a missing shilling, or a girl who glanced the wrong way. Their argument flickers, flaring suddenly into fists, and the crowd parts with practiced ease, not to help, but simply to watch. It ends as quickly as it sparks. A lucky strike, a stumble, a lip split open, pride bruised far more deeply than bone. Someone hands the boy a rag. A few people clap not. A couple stumbles past you, arms looped together, their faces flushed with drink and smoke. The man's eye is swelling, turning a gentle purple at the edges, but he's grinning like he's won a medal. The woman is laughing so hard she can barely breathe, her joy wobbling on the edge of hysteria. But the way they look at each other, like the entire world could collapse in an instant, and they still wouldn't mind. It's strangely tender. And then, as always, it begins. A small scuffle near the corner by the old well. Two boys, perhaps 16, perhaps younger, arguing about something small. A borrowed coat, a missing shilling, or a girl who glanced the wrong way. Their argument flickers, flaring suddenly into fists, and the crowd parts with practiced ease, not to help, but simply to watch. It ends as quickly as it sparks. A lucky strike, a stumble, a lip split open, pride bruised far more deeply than bone. Someone hands the boy a rag. A few people clap not out of cruelty, just habit, really. And the fiddle picks up again, soft, wavering, as if nothing happened at all. This is what Saturday feels like here. A strange, weary kind of release. Not joy exactly, but but the closest thing many will touch this week. And here's a gentle little fact to rest. Your thoughts on fighting wasn't unusual in these slums. It was expected, almost. A ritual, a way to let the pressure out before it grew too heavy to hold. Most nights ended with nothing worse than swollen cheeks and new stories. Most nights you move through the square, feeling the soft tangle of warmth, noise, and human breath around you. And there's Mary, sitting near the children, dancing in a crooked circle of lamplight. A boy her age offers his hand, but she only shakes her head. She's had too much change this week. No song can quite soften that. A man approaches you then, holding a cracked mug filled with something dark and suspiciously flammable. He introduces himself as Jack. He tells you 3 things immediately. He's 39. He used to have all his teeth, and once, apparently, he wrestled a goose in a tavern and won. He beams with pride. You nod politely. His story wanders like smoke drifting from a low fire. A rant about his boss, a joke about constables, and finally, a half-remembered song that may or may not be about Queen Victoria. You can't make out the words, but you don't need to. This is what passes for relief. A momentary lifting of the weight that presses on everyone here, 6 days a week. A collective exhale. Some scholars say gatherings like this kept the community alive, kept people human. Others argue they prevented revolt by offering just enough release to keep the system running. Either way, you feel it, that pulse, that stubborn spark of life, refusing to be quiet. You slip away as the music softens, candles tremble, and the night folds itself gently around the slum like a frayed blanket. Inside Annis's house, sleep has settled early. Mary lies with her arm over her eyes. Nellie curls against her mother. The fire is only ember glow. Now you lie down, 2 boots still on, and let the sounds of the night drift behind your eyelids. Faint music, a distant shout, the whisper of a baby crying somewhere far off. For a moment, just a moment, the city rests. Then morning seeps in. It doesn't rise so much as ooze between the soot-soaked bricks, slow and tired. A mother of 5 and a woman held upright by will and muscle alone. You find her ankle-deep in water, already working before 7. Her hands are cracked and swollen, but move with strong, practiced rhythm. A baby sways on her back. Every movement, gentle and automatic. Soap, rinse, wring, soot, suds, steam. Her life in 5 motions. Laundry isn't glamorous. It isn't even considered real work by the city. But for women like Bess, it is survival. It is dignity. It is the thin thread keeping everything from unraveling. Back in the tiny room she calls home, you watch as she peels potatoes, soothes a child, stirs a pot, mends a sleeve, all in one seamless flow. She speaks of neighbors who lost children, of hunger mistaken for pickiness, of bravery that cost too much, and you see the truth without her saying it. If the factories build the city, the women keep it breathing. Evening softens the room. The fire flickers. The children curled together. Henry returns with empty hands and a heavy heart. Bess does not scold him. She simply hands him a bowl and continues sewing. She does not break. Not tonight. Outside the soot falls again, soft as ash, quiet as snow. The sky blurs itself into the buildings. Children cough in the shadows. The air feels thick enough to touch. Manchester breathes in heavy, blackened clouds. You meet Reuben, the sweep whose lungs are turning to cinders. Ruth, who has lost 4 children and folds laundry with trembling hands. A city tired down to the bone. You return home with the taste of metal in your mouth. The windows sweat soot. Nellie's nose bleeds again. No one reacts. The air outside is worse. You sleep with that taste, that faint, burnt temps, settling at the back of your throat. And then, one night, you follow a crooked little sign into a 4-penny lodging house. A 4-penny coffin, they call it. Not for death, but for the shape. Long rows of narrow bunks, stacked like crates, filled with bodies, searching for warmth, for shelter, for anything. The room is thick with breath and damp cloth. Coughs echo in small pockets. Someone hums without melody. Someone whispers a prayer. You lie on your narrow bunk and let the sounds wash over you. A soft chaos of survival, beds that never go cold, lives that touch only when passing. A place that is awful, and yet, for many, the safest place they will sleep all month. Sometime near dawn, you drift off. Dreams flicker like shadows under a door. Bricks, smoke, a ship crowded with beds. A bell ringing thinly through fog. When morning finally comes, you step out into the alley, your breath rising in the cold, your shoulders heavy, your eyes stinging, and the city greets you the only way it knows how, raw, gray, and awake again. Night falls gently over the narrow lanes, the kind that seem to fold in on themselves, as if the whole world is drawing a slow, tired breath. Saturday nights here do not burst with celebration. They simply unwind. A long exhale after a week that felt twice as long as it should. People drift into the open spaces as though pulled by a quiet tide, seeking warmth, sound, company, or simply a moment where they aren't thinking about the next day's hunger. A fiddle hums somewhere nearby, its melody wobbling softly in the cold. Voices float through the air like wandering lanterns. A giggle here, a sigh there. Nothing sharp or hurried, just the weary rhythm of lives unwinding. You walk past a couple who lean on each other for balance. Their steps uneven, their laughter a little too loud, but harmless, gentle, in a strange sort of way. His eye is swollen, the skin around it turning a dark, muted violet, but he smiles anyway, as though pain is simply another part of living. She tosses her head back, a burst of laughter spilling out that sounds more like release than joy, and for a moment you see them not as poor or desperate or worn down, but simply human, fragile, and hopeful in their own strange way. A little farther along, a circle opens up around 2 boys, faces flushed, fists raised, shadows leaping around them in the flickering lamplight. Their fight is small, quick, fizzling out almost as soon as it ignites. A punch, a stumble, a scraped knee, and then it's over. No grudges, no real anger. Just the simmering tension of the week, escaping before it has the chance to harden into something dangerous. Someone pats one of the boys on the back. Someone else hands the other a rag. And the crowd simply closes again, as though the scuffle were no more than a passing gust of wind. Mary watches from the edge of the gathering, eyes quiet, thoughtful, older than they should be. A boy asks her to play, but she only shakes her head softly. She has seen too much this week. Her spirit sits low, like a candle's flame, tired of fighting the draft. Near her, a man named Jack drifts your way. mug in hand, beard patchy eyes, bright with the kind of cheer that arrives only when the week has finally loosened its grip. He offers you a sip of something sharp and smoky. You decline politely, but he talks anyway, about bosses he hates, about a goose he once wrestled, about a joke he can't quite remember the ending of. The words don't matter. It's the sound of them, the soft, wandering trail of a man trying to forget even just for one night. Nights like these kept people going, not because they were happy, but because they were a small, flickering reminder that laughter still existed somewhere in the world. Eventually, you make your way home, a small room where Mary sleeps, Nellie curled into Anis's arms, the fire fading into a gentle bed of embers. You settle on the floor, boots still on, head against the cold wall. Outside, the city exhales again, and you drift into sleep. Morning arrives quietly, not with sunlight, but with a dull grayness that seeps through the soot-soaked window. And today, you follow someone new. Bess, a washerwoman, a mother of 5, a backbone of this neighborhood. When you find her, she is already ankle-deep in water, scrubbing clothes with cracked, raw hands as her baby sleeps against her back, rocked gently by the rhythm of her work. The air smells of wet cloth, of soap scraped thin, of lives washed and wrung and washed again. Laundry is not gentle work. It steals skin. It eats time. It carves lines into the back and shoulders. But for Bess, this is what stands between her children and hunger. When she returns home, the room is warm with steam. A pot simmers. A child tugs at her skirt. Another cries softly. Bess moves through it all with the quiet strength of someone who cannot afford to stop. She peels potatoes, mends a sleeve wipes. A child's face stirs the pot and folds a blanket, all in one smooth, practiced motion. You sense a weight pressing on her, but her voice is gentle, her patience steady. Not because she is calm, but because she has no choice. When Henry comes home, tired and empty-handed, she doesn't scold him. She simply hands him his share of supper and continues sewing by the fading light. Her children lean against her. Her husband sits quietly, and she holds them all by doing the simplest thing, staying upright. Outside, soot falls from the sky in slow black snowflakes. The air is thick. The buildings disappear into the haze. Every breath exhales smoke and inhales it again. You meet Reuben, the sweep lungs rattling softly as he speaks. You watch Ruth fold laundry with trembling hands after losing 4 children in 6 years. You see the faces that belong to the dirtiest jobs and the saddest stories. And when you return home, Nellie is bleeding from the nose again. No one flinches. It's normal here, part of the air, part of the life. You go to bed tasting soot, a dry, burnt temps settling on your tongue and in your chest. Another night falls, and you drift into a different kind of shelter, a 4-penny lodging house. People call it the 4-penny coffin, not because it kills, but because the beds are long. Narrow boxes, stacked side by side, filled with the exhausted bodies of men who carried too much weight today and will carry even more tomorrow. The air hangs heavy with breath and heat and damp wool. Someone coughs, someone whispers a prayer, someone snores softly as though apologizing for taking up space. You lie in your narrow bunk, feeling the soft vibration of the room around you, the chorus of weary lives humming in the dark. it is crowded, uncomfortable, airless, but for many here, it is as safe as the night ever gets. You drift into shallow sleep, dreams flickering like warm shadows under a door, a ship filled with bunks, a fog bell ringing, a brick sky collapsing into soot, and when the morning finally arrives, you step out into the cold, your breath little clouds of white, your body heavy and slow. The city greets you again in its gray, unchanging way, alive, endlessly tired, and already beginning another day. Morning arrives without ceremony, a pale, diluted light stretching itself slowly between brick walls, as though unsure whether it truly wants to return. You step out of the lodging house into the narrow lane, your breath rising in soft clouds that vanish almost as soon as they form. The cold feels cleaner than the air inside, but only just, a thin bite wrapped in the smell of chimney soot and damp stone around you. The city begins to stir in its usual world-weary way. Doors creak open, buckets scrape against cobblestones. Someone coughs from a window high above, the sound drifting down like falling dust. You start walking, letting the rhythm of the street guide your thoughts, slow, steady, almost meditative. A woman sweeps her step, brushing away a night's worth of dirt that will return before noon. She pauses to nod at you, a tired but warm acknowledgement, a small kindness in a place where kindness is often rationed. Farther along, a cart creaks by, led by a man whose face is lined like folded fabric. Every line seems to hold a memory, not of joy or youth, but of storms weathered quietly. Without complaint, you follow the cart's slow rumble until the sounds of the market drift toward you, soft, uneven, not fully awake yet. Stalls begin to open with the sleepy drag of canvas and rope. Vendors murmur to one another, their voices low and gentle, as though speaking too loudly might break the fragile calm of the morning. A woman sells bread so small and thin it seems to weigh no more than a sigh. She handles each piece with the same tenderness another woman might reserve for silk. For her, bread is not just food, it is hope shaped into something warm. You wander deeper into the market, where a man sharpens knives on a whetstone, the sound a quiet whispering scrape, like two stones humming to each other. The rhythm is soothing, steady, unhurried, a little lullaby made from metal and patience. Children run past you, their laughter soft and breathless, not loud or bursting, just gentle little sparks in the gray morning air. They chase nothing in particular, just movement, just possibility. Even here, even in soot and hunger, children find reasons to run. You eventually leave the market behind, moving through a narrow alley where the walls lean so close together. You can almost imagine the city whispering around you. There is a stillness here, a quiet pocket between the noise of waking life, and for a moment you simply breathe. Even the soot-thick air has its own rhythm, its own way of settling gently into your lungs, like a heavy blanket that you've learned to live beneath. Ahead, the day stretches patiently, waiting for you to step into it, not with urgency, but with the steady, slow acceptance that people here have perfected. No one in these streets rushes, not because they don't want to, but because rushing suggests there is somewhere better to be. And here, life is lived minute by minute, breath by breath, quietly, softly, with the strength of those who survive simply by continuing. You follow. the path toward the heart of the district where the factories loom tall, dark silhouettes against a sky smudged with gray. Their chimneys stand like long, solemn pillars, exhaling slow clouds that drift across the rooftops as though painted there by an unsteady hand. You know what's waiting inside the low roar of machines, the vibration underfoot, the soft thud-thud of work that gnaws at bone and spirit. But for now, before you step through those doors, you pause at the gate and let the last moment of morning calm settle over you. The world is quiet here. Heavy, yes, but quiet. And in that stillness, you feel something like resolve, not sharp or fiery, but soft, steady, like the way sea stones become round just by enduring. The day will be long, the work will be hard, but in this moment between breath and step, you let your thoughts drift, gently, like soot falling in slow motion, peaceful in their own strange way. You step through the factory gates as quietly as someone stepping into a cathedral, a place sacred not for holiness, but for the immense weight of the lives inside. The moment you cross the threshold, the world changes. The hum begins first, a low, continuous vibration, like a giant creature breathing slowly in the dark. It settles into your bones before you even understand it, a rhythm you will carry long after you leave. The floors tremble faintly. The air is warm, thick with floating cotton dust that dances like pale snow in the slanted beams of light. Everything is muted, the colors, the voices, the movements, as if the whole factory is wrapped in a layer of soft, gray wool. Workers shuffle in quietly, some still half asleep, their faces calm and blank, save for a flicker of determination that glows right beneath the surface. No one here rushes. Rushing wastes energy, and energy is worth more than coins. You take your place along the long wooden tables where thread twists and spindles turn. The machines start slowly, stretching awake with deep, thudding breaths, then faster still, until the room becomes one single, steady pulse. Thud, whir, thud, whir. The sound is endless, yet strangely soothing, the way a river repeats the same syllables over and over until your mind softens inside the rhythm around you. Children begin feeding threads into the frames. Their hands move lightly, quickly, almost without thought, movements learned long before memory. A little girl with pale brown hair and a ribbon faded from blue to gray glances up at you. She smiles, a small, tired smile, and then returns to her work. You notice the way dust clings to her lashes like sparkling frost, and for a brief moment the entire scene feels suspended, gentle, almost beautiful in its own worn-down way. Another girl pauses to rub her eyes. The overseer nods at her, a rare kindness, and she presses on with the steady patience of someone far older than her years. Hours pass slowly, the lines between minutes blurring until time becomes nothing more than a soft, endless loop. Nothing dramatic happens here, just quiet endurance, quiet effort, quiet strength. You feel your own breathing fall into rhythm with the machines, slow, steady, measured. The dust settles on your clothes, on your arms, on your hair, a soft, powdery blanket that dulls the world into muted tones. At midday, the machines rest, their silence sudden and deep. The room feels hollow without their breath. You hear your heart again. You hear your thoughts again. Workers sit along the walls, opening small parcels of food, boiled potatoes, a crust of bread, tea that has gone cold but still offers comfort. You join them, sitting with your back to the warm brick wall. The quiet is almost shocking, as though someone has pulled the whole sky closer and hushed it with a gentle finger. Some talk softly, some stare into nothing, some simply close their eyes and let their bodies rest. No laughter today, just the deep, slow exhale that comes with pausing long enough to feel your own weight. A young boy named Tom nudges your shoulder. He holds out half a piece of bread, more than he can afford to give, and says nothing. You shake your head softly, but he insists, pressing it into your hand with a tiny, stubborn frown that somehow warms you more than any blanket ever could. Ends too soon. It always does. The machines wake again, loud at first, then settling into their familiar heartbeat. Thud, whir, thud, whirr. The day stretches on, threads twist, spin. You shake your head softly, but he insists, pressing it into your hand with a tiny, stubborn frown that somehow warms you more than any blanket ever could. Break ends too soon. It always does. The machines wake again, loud at first, then settling into their familiar heartbeat. Thud, whir, thud, whirr. The day stretches on. Threads twist, spindles spin, dust floats, breath deepens. Nothing changes, yet everything wears, softly, slowly, like stone smoothed by the tide. And when the final whistle blows, not sharp, but weary, the factory exhales. You step outside again, and the world feels wider, colder, quieter. The sun is sinking, painting the buildings with the faintest gold that struggles to break through the soot. People walk home in small groups, their silhouettes soft against the fading light. No one complains, no one hurries, no one hopes for more than rest and another day's strength. Tonight, you follow them, following the slow, patient river of lives that drift through the alleys with quiet resilience, and as darkness settles, like a blanket pulled gently across the sky, you feel the weight of the day soften in your chest. For now, there is stillness. For now, there is warmth behind closed doors. For now, there is the quiet miracle of simply making it to the end of the day. Your footsteps slow, your breath softens. The dim glow of your lantern pools gently across the dusty floorboards. Up ahead, the hallway opens into a wide room, place that must once have been meant for healing. Perhaps this was where patients gathered in daylight, where nurses encouraged gentle conversation, or where someone tried, long ago, to bring a bit of comfort into an otherwise lonely world. But now, the room is motionless, still, drifting in its own forgotten time. You step inside. A chair sits near the center, turned slightly toward a tall, narrow window. Its back is curved with the kind of elegant craftsmanship people once believed could make even an asylum feel refined. But the wood is cracked now. The cushion has long lost its shape. A faint breeze slips through the broken windowpane, cool, almost apologetic. It moves the thin curtains just enough to stir a whisper across the room. For a moment, the fabric shifts in a way that resembles a hand pushing gently past it. But when you look closer, there's nothing there. Only the curtain breathing in the night air. You lift your lantern higher. Shadows lean away from the light. Dust drifts lazily upward, disturbed by the smallest motion. The whole space feels as though it has paused its endless sleep to acknowledge you. At the far end, you notice a table cluttered with old notes and faded papers. Some are folded, some left open, as if abandoned mid-thought. You slowly approach. Your fingertips almost touch the edge when you notice one page lying separate from the rest. A page that looks newer, less decayed, almost as if someone placed it there not so long ago. You pick it up. The handwriting is shaky, but unmistakably careful. Someone took their time with this. Someone wanted the words to be understood. And though the ink has faded, you can still read the first line: "If anyone ever finds this, please listen." You swallow gently. The room around you feels as though it leans in with you. Waiting, you turn the page slightly toward the lantern's glow, and then you hear it again, a sound soft, slow, almost like breathing. The sound is faint, so faint you almost convince yourself it's nothing more than the wind teasing its way through the broken window. But then it comes again, soft, steady, unmistakably human. A slow inhale, a slower exhale, measured, as if someone is trying not to be heard. Your lantern flickers. You turn your head slightly, careful not to make any sudden noise. The room stays still, frozen in its own hush. Dust drifts in lazy spirals, undisturbed by anything but your breath. You take one quiet step, then another. The breathing doesn't grow louder, but it doesn't fade either. It lingers, close, but not close enough to pinpoint. You lift your lantern, letting the glow reach the corners of the room. Nothing, only peeling paint, abandoned furniture, the silent remains of a forgotten world. You lower your gaze to the page in your hand. That single line seems heavier now. "If anyone ever finds this, please listen." You gently turn the paper over, careful not to tear the delicate fibers. There is more writing. The next sentence trembles across the page. "Not everyone who lived here left." A quiet shiver slips down your spine, not from fear, exactly, but from the sense of stepping deeper into a story that has waited far too long to be heard. You read on. Some stayed because they had nowhere else. Some stayed because they were too afraid to leave. And some were simply forgotten. The breathing sound returns. This time, it isn't coming from the hallway. It isn't behind you. It isn't above or below. It's coming from somewhere in the room. Somewhere nearby, but hidden. You move your lantern slowly across the walls, letting the light roll over each surface like warm water. As the glow reaches the far corner, you notice something, just a shape at first, small and unobtrusive. A wardrobe, tall, old, its doors slightly, just slightly, ajar. The breathing grows a fraction clearer, not louder, just less obscured, like someone shifting behind a curtain. Your pulse steadies. Your steps remain soft. Everything inside you quiets, preparing. You approach the wardrobe. The room watches. When you reach it, you pause, letting a moment of stillness settle into your bones. Your hand lifts. Your fingers curl around the cool edge of the door. You ease it open, just a crack. The lantern light slips inside, illuminating clothes, worn coats, hanging motionless in the stale air. No figure, no person, but behind the coats, you see something else. A small wooden box, old but clean, carefully placed, as if someone hid it there intentionally. The breathing stops. The silence that follows feels heavier than sound. You reach toward the box, and then, somewhere beyond the room, a door slams, hard, echoing through the corridors. Like a sudden thunderclap, you freeze. The lantern flickers again, dimming, then strengthening. The asylum has awakened. The echo of the slamming door rolls through the halls like distant thunder. Slowly, it fades, until the asylum returns to its resting quiet. But something is different now. The air feels more alert, almost aware of you. You steady your breathing, letting that calm, slow rhythm settle back into your chest. Then, with the lantern cradled in one hand, you lift the small wooden box from the wardrobe. It's lighter than you expected. The wood is smooth, worn down by time, but on the lid, you feel faint grooves beneath your fingertips, letters carved by hand. You raise it closer to the lantern. The inscription is simple but deliberate, for the one who listens. You run your thumb gently across the words. The box is held shut by a thin, tarnished clasp hold, but still intact. You hesitate. A feeling washes over you, not fear, something softer, as if whatever is inside was meant to be found only by someone patient enough, quiet enough, gentle enough to truly hear this place. You open it. The clasp lifts with a tired click, and the lid creaks softly as it rises. Inside, resting on a cushion of folded linen, is a single object, a key, long, slender, iron, its handle formed into an elegant, swirling shape, beautiful in a way that seems out of place in a building meant to contain despair. You lift it carefully. It's cold against your skin. As you hold it, the lantern flame steadies as if the room is exhaling. Beneath where the key rested, you notice another folded piece of paper, much smaller, much more fragile. You ease it open. The handwriting is the same as before, trembling, careful. Do not fear the sound of doors. Fear only the ones that never open. Your heart slows, your breath deepens. You look around the room again, lantern casting soft, warm circles across the walls. No movement, no breath but your own, but you feel it, a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a sense of direction, as if the asylum itself is gently guiding you. Somewhere in the maze of hallways, there must be a locked door waiting for this key. You close the box, tuck the note inside, and slip the key safely into your pocket. When you step back into the corridor, the silence greets you like an old companion. The shadows stretch long. The air hums faintly with the echo of forgotten voices. Then, very softly, you hear something new, not breathing, not footsteps, a melody. A music box tune, distant and delicate, drifting through the darkness in slow, lilting notes, coming from deeper within the asylum, a lullaby, sad but inviting, a song meant to lead you somewhere, and so you follow. As you follow the faint, fragile melody drifting through the asylum's endless corridors, something about the sound feels strangely gentle, almost comforting in the way a half-remembered lullaby might calm a restless child in the middle of a stormy night. And though you can't place the tune, it tugs at something deep beneath your thoughts, a sensation not of recognition but of resonance, as if the music is less a song and more a quiet invitation from the building itself, urging you to step deeper into its forgotten heart. You walk slowly, letting the lantern cast its warm circle of light ahead of you, watching the shadows pull back like soft curtains retreating from a stage, revealing worn floorboards, chipped doorframes, faded wallpaper, peeling in long, delicate strips like parchment rolling away from an ancient truth, and the melody grows a little clearer with each step, not louder but sharper, more defined, like the gentle turning of a music box handle in hands that have long since vanished. The air grows cooler as you move, but the chill is not hostile, more like the cool breath of time brushing against your skin, reminding you that this place has waited so long in silence that even the smallest disturbance carries weight, history, and memories you can almost feel pressing softly against your shoulders as you move deeper into the hallway, where the walls seem to lean inward, listening to your footsteps, considering your presence, and somewhere between one step and the next you sense a shift in the atmosphere, a subtle change in the way the air moves, as if the asylum itself has recognized the key you carry, and the melody drifting through the dark adjusts its rhythm, aligning itself with your pace, guiding you through a corridor that bends in a slow, almost serpentine curve. The lantern flickers, then steadies, its glow brushing over old framed photographs hanging crookedly along the walls, faces blurred by age and water damage, but their postures stiff, formal, the kind that belonged to people who lived lives measured by strict rules, quiet routines, and the constant presence of watchful eyes. Some faces seem to look away, swallowed by smudges of time, but others appear to turn slightly toward you as you pass, their faded gazes asking questions you can't hear, questions that linger in the dusty air even after you've walked several paces beyond them. The melody shifts again, dipping into a slower, more sorrowful tone, and you follow it past an open doorway leading into a room filled with overturned chairs and a collapsed bookshelf, past another door that hangs half off its hinges, revealing nothing but a tangle of broken bed frames and shredded mattresses. And all the while, the music guides you with a patience that suggests the tune is meant not to startle but to soothe, like a whisper calling someone back home. Your hand brushes idly against the pocket where the slender iron key rests, its shape pressing through the fabric like a quiet reminder of purpose, and you begin to wonder who placed it in the box, who carved those careful letters declaring it for the one who listens, who wrote the trembling notes that warned you about doors that never open, and whether the one who wrote them ever managed to leave the asylum, or whether they are yet another silent presence lingering in the shadows, watching you with the hopeful patience of someone waiting for a message to finally be delivered. As you continue down the hallway, you notice the floor beneath your boots changing subtly. The boards become smoother, less warped, almost polished by unseen hands, and the walls straighten, their peeling wallpaper replaced by older, darker paint that absorbs the lantern's glow like ink drinking water. The melody becomes clearer still, resolving into a recognizable line that loops gently over and over, a tender sequence of notes that seems meant to calm restless minds. And then, at last, you reach a point in the corridor where the sound seems to be coming from beyond a single closed door at the far end, a door unlike the others, taller, narrower, crafted of heavy wood, darkened by age, and reinforced with iron rivets that gleam faintly as the lantern light touches them. You pause, letting your breath soften into the cool stillness as the music continues on the other side, and you feel the key in your pocket grow almost warmer, as if responding to something unseen, a faint pulse of intention running through the metal. You approach slowly, each step deliberate, listening to the melody grow clearer. And as you stand before the door, you notice that its handle is shaped with the same elegant swirl as the key, as though the two were made together long ago. The lantern trembles in your hand as you reach into your pocket and pull out the iron key, its weight familiar now, almost comforting, and you slide it carefully into the lock, feeling the soft click as it settles into place, as if it has been waiting for this exact moment, for you, for someone willing to listen. You turn the key, and the lock opens with a gentle, almost relieved sound, a long exhale echoing softly behind it, and the door creaks open, inch by inch, the lantern's glow spilling into the room beyond. Inside, you find a small chamber lit by nothing but moonlight, filtering through a high, arched window, the beams falling upon a solitary wooden chair placed at the center of the room, and on that chair sits a perfectly preserved music box, its little brass handle slowly turning on its own, the soft melody floating gently through the air like the last memory of a voice that once soothed frightened souls. You step inside, feeling an unfamiliar peace wash over you as the door eases shut behind you, not trapping you but holding the moment still, and pull out the iron key, its weight familiar now, almost comforting, and you slide it carefully into the lock, feeling the soft click as it settles into place, as if it has been waiting for this exact moment, for you, for someone willing to listen. You turn the key, and the lock opens with a gentle, almost relieved sound, a long exhale echoing softly behind it, and the door creaks open, inch by inch, the lantern's glow spilling into the room beyond. Inside, you find a small chamber lit by nothing but moonlight, filtering through a high, arched window, the beams falling upon a solitary wooden chair placed at the center of the room, and on that chair sits a perfectly preserved music box, its little brass handle slowly turning on its own, the soft melody floating gently through the air like the last memory of a voice that once soothed frightened souls. You step inside, feeling an unfamiliar peace wash over you as the door eases shut behind you, not trapping you but holding the moment still. And as you stand before the music box, the melody slowing just a fraction, you notice a single sheet of paper resting beneath it, the same trembling handwriting whispering across the page. And though the words are barely visible in the lantern's light, you lean closer to read them. Thank you for listening. Now, help me finish the song. And in that moment, you feel the air shift behind you, not with fear, but with presence, the room gently filling with the quiet awareness of someone who had been waiting centuries for the right person to enter. Someone who now stands just behind your shoulder, not reaching, not threatening, simply hoping that you will stay long enough to let the melody finally rest. As you stand there with the music box humming its fragile tune into the cool, moonlit air, you feel the weight of the unseen presence behind you, not heavy or threatening, but soft, almost hopeful, as though whatever lingers in this room has waited so many years for someone who would not flinch, someone who would not run, someone who would simply listen. In the lantern's glow trembles gently along the walls, revealing faint markings etched into the paint, swirling patterns that look less like scratches and more like the quiet remnants of someone tracing shapes during long, sleepless nights. You take a slow step closer to the chair, the floorboards sighing under your weight as if relieved to feel life again, and the music box handle slows in its turning, the last few delicate notes hanging in the air as thin as cobwebs, and when the melody finally drifts into silence, the room becomes impossibly still, a vast and patient quiet wrapping itself around you like a blanket. You reach down and lift the fragile sheet of paper left beneath the music box, the faint tremble in the handwriting seeming almost alive in the lantern light, and the words softly declare, "If you are reading this, then the melody has chosen you." The phrase settles in your mind like a feather drifting to the floor, and you look around the chamber, feeling the unseen presence still hovering gently behind you, waiting for your next breath, your next movement, your next understanding. You turn the page over, discovering more writing, more trembling lines shaped with aching care. I began this song because I could not speak. I could not leave. I could only wait for someone with a steady heart to finish what I could not. The message feels heavier than the fragile paper it's written on, and as you hold it, the air behind you shifts again, not cold, not sharp, just a quiet ripple in the silence, like someone stepping closer with cautious hope. You lift the music box, feeling its weight, feeling the faint warmth from where the mechanism had been turning on its own. And as your fingers brush the carvings along its edges, you notice small symbols etched into the wood, circles, spirals, doors, keys, all motifs you recognize from the corridors you wandered, as though the entire asylum had been quietly preparing you for this moment long before you reached this room. You slowly wind the handle, and the music stirs back to life, but the melody feels incomplete, hesitating, as though waiting for something not yet resolved, and the unseen presence grows more focused, more attentive. You realize then that the melody is not merely a tune, but a story the asylum itself has carried for decades without ever finding someone willing to hear its final line. Your breath softens, aligning with the rhythm of the faint notes, and you close your eyes just long enough to feel the warmth of the lantern against your skin, the quiet expectancy of the room, and the subtle reassurance that whatever stands behind you means no harm, only longing. When you open your eyes again, you notice a narrow door on the opposite side of the chamber, a door you hadn't seen before, its outline faint in the moonlight, yet unmistakably waiting. And as the last few notes of the melody drift away, the unseen presence shifts with them, almost nudging you gently toward the door, urging you onward with a kind of silent pleading. The handle turns under your fingers even before you consciously decide to push it, and the door swings open to reveal a staircase spiraling downward, lit not by lantern or moonlight, but by a soft, natural glow rising from somewhere deep below, a glow the color of dawn just beginning to breathe onto the horizon. You step down, one slow step at a time, the air warming as you descend, the presence following close but never touching, guiding without pushing, comforting without confining. And the staircase winds downward until it opens into a vast underground hall, its ceiling supported by arches carved with the same swirling patterns as the music box. And in the center of the room sits an enormous door taller than any you've seen, made of pale wood that seems almost alive, with faint light pulsing beneath its surface, and at its center is a lock shaped exactly like the key you carry. You understand then, without needing the presence to tell you, that this is the door the note warned you of, the one that can open, the one that must open, the one that has been waiting for someone who listens. You reach into your pocket, your fingers curling around the key's smooth iron surface. And as you approach the glowing door, you feel the presence finally step beside you. Neither behind nor ahead, but next to you, as though after all this waiting, it is ready not to lead, not to follow, but simply to witness. Your breath steadies, your heart quiets, and as the key slides into the lock with a soft, resonant click, the presence exhales, not a haunting sound, but a relieved, grateful sigh. The great door begins to open. As the great door slowly drifts open, the warm light behind it spills outward like a gentle sunrise blooming across the underground hall, soft and golden and impossibly calm, washing over the arches and the stone floor in a glow so serene it feels as though time itself has paused to watch, and the unseen presence beside you inhales with a long, trembling breath, one filled not with fear, but with the fragile hope of someone who has waited lifetimes for a moment of release. And as the door widens, the light reveals an expansive chamber beyond, a place that looks nothing like the cold, decaying asylum above. Instead, the space feels almost sacred, its walls carved with countless circular designs that mirror the patterns etched into the music box, into the wardrobe, into the whispers of the building itself. And at the center of the chamber stands a pedestal made of smooth, pale stone, untouched by dust or time, glowing faintly from within, as though it holds the memory of 1,000 nights. The air here is warm and perfectly still, with no trace of the drafts or sighs that haunt the floors above. And for a moment, you feel as if you've stepped into the heart of the asylum, a heart that has somehow remained untouched by decay, preserved by something deeper than stone or wood. The unseen presence drifts forward slightly, not walking, not moving as a living person would, but floating like a long-held breath finally released from lungs that forgot how to breathe. And as it approaches the pedestal, the glowing chamber seems to shift gently, like a sleeper stirring beneath soft blankets. You follow, steps silent against the stone, lantern lowered at your side, as if its light is no longer needed in a place already filled with its own quiet radiance. And as you near the pedestal, you notice an object lying at its center, a single, folded piece of paper resting atop a carved indentation shaped like a small, delicate rectangle, the exact size of the music box you carry. You gently place the music box into the indentation, and the moment it touches the stone, a resonance hums through the chamber, low and warm, vibrating through the floor and into your bones, and the unseen presence seems to shimmer beside you, its form gaining the faintest outline in the golden glow, not enough to see a face or figure, but enough to feel that someone is truly standing there, filled with gratitude so profound it radiates like heat. You unfold the piece of paper, the handwriting instantly recognizable, shaky, careful, written with the weight of someone who struggled to steady their own hands, and the message reads, "When the song is placed where it belongs, the door that never opened will finally rest." You read the words twice, 3 times, letting them settle into your thoughts like dust drifting to a still surface, and as you lower the paper, the music box suddenly begins to turn on its own again, not with the hesitant trembling from before, but with a smooth, confident motion. And the melody that rises from it is no longer incomplete. It is whole, rich, warm, filling the chamber with a sound that feels like memory, like release, like the final note of a story long trapped in silence. The unseen presence beside you trembles, its outline flickering like a candle in a gentle breeze, and though no words are spoken, you feel its gratitude wrap around you like a soft embrace, an emotion so pure and relieved that it nearly brings tears to your eyes. The music swells, then softens, then fades into a tender hush. The last note, lingering in the glowing air, like a kiss bestowed on the world by someone who has finally been heard, and as it fades, the presence beside you grows lighter, thinner, dissolving gently into the warm gold around you, until you feel nothing but a peaceful stillness where it once stood, as though it has stepped fully, finally, into the rest it waited so long to find. The pedestal's glow dims, the chamber grows quiet, and the great wooden door behind you begins to ease itself closed, not shutting you in, but sealing the story, letting it sleep while you stand in the fading light with the soft, irreplaceable knowledge that you were the final listener, the missing breath, the open door in a place built from countless closed ones. And as you turn back toward the staircase, the asylum above feels different in your mind, not haunted, not sorrowful, but peaceful, its long silence finally complete, its last melody finally set free. As you ascend the spiraling staircase, leaving the warm golden chamber behind, the air gradually cools with each step, not with the sharp bite of fear or neglect, but with the soft neutrality of a place returning to its long slumber, and the stone walls around you seem to exhale gently, as if relieved that a story once tangled in its foundations has finally been untied. By the time you reach the top of the stairs and push open the narrow door back into the small moonlit room where the music box had first rested on its solitary chair, you notice that the atmosphere has shifted. The heavy tension that once filled the space now dissolved into something featherlight and hollow, like a room after a long-awaited guest has finally departed, leaving behind only the faint warmth of their presence. The chair stands exactly where it had been, but the air around it feels clearer, the corners less shadowed, the silence no longer thick with expectancy, but thin and peaceful, and even the old wallpaper, torn and peeling, seems less oppressive, its patterns softened by the gentle pull of moonlight spilling through the arched window. You take a slow breath and feel the entire building breathe with you, no longer straining, no longer whispering from behind its walls. And as you turn toward the hallway that leads back into the asylum's winding corridors, the lantern in your hand flickers, not with warning, but with a relaxed, steady glow, guiding your steps through spaces that feel subtly transformed. The corridor, once heavy with echoes and breaths and unseen movements, now stretches before you in a comfortable quiet, the boards creaking under your feet, and the shadows cling more loosely to the corners, no longer tugging at your attention or shifting with unspoken urgency. You walk slowly, letting your fingers brush along the worn walls, feeling their rough texture like the pages of an old book finally closed. And with each step, the entire building feels more like a place retired from its burdens, an aging structure no longer burdened by restless memories or unfinished songs, but allowed at last to rest. You pass by the rooms you explored earlier, the gathering room with its cracked window and gently moving curtains, the hallway lined with crooked photographs whose blurred faces now seem to watch you, not with longing or questions, but with calm acceptance. as though they too have felt the release that swept through the building like a quiet dawn. Even the faint smell of dust and time seems lighter, less stagnant, touched by the sense of closure that now coils like a warm thread through every beam and floorboard. As you reach the junction where the asylum's passages branch into countless dim corridors, you realize how effortlessly your path now reveals itself, how the building that once twisted like a maze of tension now unfolds its layout in a gentle, straightforward path guiding you toward the exit. And as you continue walking, the lantern's light reaches the entrance hall where the tall double doors stand slightly ajar, their heavy frames no longer groaning under unseen weight but standing upright, relaxed in their hinges as if grateful to be nothing more than doors again, no longer thresholds holding back lost stories or unspoken pleas. You step through the doorway into the cool night air outside, and the wind greets you with a soft brush across your face, carrying the scent of damp earth, old leaves, and distant pine, a scent that feels startlingly alive after the long hours spent wandering the asylum's silent interiors. The sky above stretches wide and open, stars scattered like tiny lanterns marking a path across the dark, and the moon hangs heavy and luminous, draping the entire landscape in silver light that settles gently on the overgrown grounds and the cracked stone steps beneath your feet. You turn back once more, looking at the asylum's dark silhouette rising against the night, its windows blank and calm, no longer shifting or whispering. And though the building looms as large as ever, something in its posture seems softer, as though its long, silent burden has been lifted at last. You raise your lantern in a gentle gesture of farewell, the flame glowing warm and steady inside its glass. And for a moment, you imagine you see a faint flicker of golden light deep within one of the upper windows, not a ghost, not a presence, but the last warm breath of a story fully told before it fades peacefully into the darkness. You turn away from the building at last, following the narrow path that winds downhill toward the world beyond. Your footsteps slow and unhurried, the night quiet and welcoming. And as you walk beneath the soft glow of starlight, you realize the melody you helped complete still lingers in your mind, not haunting but soothing, a quiet companion humming gently in your thoughts as you continue onward into the restful, waiting night. As you continue down the quiet path leading away from the asylum, the night air grows warmer around you, settling softly against your skin like the gentle weight of a blanket being drawn across a sleeping form, and the distant sound of leaves brushing against one another becomes a hushed lullaby that blends seamlessly with the fading echo of the melody still humming somewhere deep in your memory. A reminder not of fear or sorrow, but of the strange tenderness that came from listening to a voice that had waited far too long to be heard. The grass along the edges of the trail sways lazily in the breeze, whispering in low, rhythmic patterns that seem almost to match the cadence of your footsteps. And as you look up toward the star-laden sky, the constellations appear impossibly clear, their pale light forming delicate threads that stretch from horizon to horizon, like an endless tapestry of quiet stories woven above your path. The moon, now high and full, casts a pale glow across the landscape, illuminating the gentle slopes and scattered stones that lead you farther from the asylum's shadow. and with every step you take, you feel the distance between you and that old place turn not into separation, but into a soft, lingering connection, as though part of the building's story now rests within you not as a burden, but as a calm, steady presence, a gentle echo that will fade slowly and gracefully over time. Ahead of you, the winding trail curves toward a small clearing where the earth opens into a serene meadow, its tall grasses shimmering like silver threads beneath the moon's light, swaying with an unhurried grace that invites you forward. And as you enter the open space, the sky seems to widen even further, offering a vast, peaceful breath that settles deep into your chest. Here, the world feels quiet in a different way than the asylum did, less heavy, less expectant, more like the quiet that follows a long-awaited exhale, the kind of stillness that holds no secrets, no lingering shadows, only the gentle rhythm of a night that has nothing left to fear. You pause in the middle of the meadow, allowing the silence to wash over you. And for the first time in what feels like hours, your lantern flame dims until it flickers out completely, not from lack of fuel or sudden wind, but as though the light itself recognizes that it is no longer needed. The world around you now, bright enough with moonlight to guide your steps with ease. The sudden absence of the lantern's glow feels strangely comforting, as though one chapter has quietly closed behind you while another begins with soft, unhurried steps, and you lower the lantern gently to your side, letting it hang in your hand like a memory made tangible. When you take another step forward, the earth beneath your feet feels softer, almost springy, welcoming, as though the land itself is guiding you toward rest. And you notice a faint trail of fireflies beginning to rise from the edges of the meadow, their tiny bodies flickering with warm, pulsing light that dances through the night in slow, drifting spirals. They float lazily around you, circling in gentle currents, their glow echoing the warmth you felt in the chamber below the asylum. And for a moment you wonder if these lights, too, carry remnants of old stories, small pieces of forgotten lives that drift freely now, without weight or sorrow. You continue walking through the meadow, the fireflies guiding your path like miniature lanterns carried by invisible hands. And as you reach the far edge of the clearing, you notice a small wooden bench nestled beneath an ancient tree whose branches stretch wide and low, its leaves trembling faintly in the breeze like pages of a worn, beloved book. Drawn by a quiet pull you cannot explain, you approach the bench and sit down, feeling the wood warm beneath you as if it has been waiting for this moment. And as you lean back, the night sky unfurls above you in a shimmering expanse of starlight, stretching endlessly into the calm silence that surrounds you. You close your eyes just long enough to feel the world steady itself around you, the rhythmic sway of the grass, the gentle hum of distant insects, the slow dance of fireflies drifting through the air. And when you open them again, the asylum in the distance is little more than a dark silhouette against the horizon, peaceful, unmoving, its long-held tension finally dissolved into the night. You breathe deeply, letting the cool air settle inside your lungs, and for a fleeting moment you feel something warm brush across your thoughts, not a whisper, not a presence, but a quiet sense of gratitude carried on the night breeze, as though the story you helped complete continues to echo softly through the world. No longer trapped, no longer waiting, simply resting. And so you sit beneath the ancient tree as the moon climbs higher, the meadow shimmering softly around you, the melody fading gently into the stillness of your mind, its final notes settling like dust on. As you rest on the quiet wooden bench beneath the ancient tree, the night deepens around you with a gentle slowness, the air growing cooler in a way that feels less like a chill and more like the soft touch of a hand guiding you toward calm. And the meadow stretches outward in a silvery hush, each blade of grass swaying with a rhythm that lulls your thoughts into a drifting, unhurried drift. Above you, the stars shimmer with a steady serenity, their pale light weaving faint patterns across the sky as though they are tracing the last threads of the story you've carried from the asylum, threading them gently into the fabric of the night so they can rest there unburdened and eternal. Nearby, the fireflies continue their slow, spiraling dance, their warm pulses of light rising and falling in quiet harmony, like small, patient breaths that help guide your own into a deeper, calmer pattern, and you watch them without urgency, feeling the world around you settle, shift, and breathe in a way that feels ancient and comforting. The tree behind you creaks softly as the breeze moves through its branches, and the sound resembles the faint groan of a wooden floor in a familiar home settling at the end of a long day. A sound that brings with it an unexpected warmth, a reminder that even old structures like the asylum you left behind have their own ways of sighing into a final, peaceful stillness. As your gaze drifts back toward the horizon, you catch the faint outline of the asylum one more time, its dark silhouette softened by the moonlight, until it looks less like a looming relic and more like a distant memory. A place that once held tightly to its secrets, but now lies quiet and relieved, its long-held story finally complete, and its restless echoes dissolved into the night air. You close your eyes briefly, feeling a deep, slow warmth spreading through your chest, the kind that arises not from heat, but from the gentle gravity of understanding, of knowing that some places, some stories, some presences remain unsettled until someone is willing to listen, and that by simply hearing the melody to its end, you offered a doorway into rest for something that had waited far too long to be soothed. When you open your eyes again, the fireflies have drifted closer, gathering in a loose, glowing cluster around you, their tiny lights blinking softly in a rhythm that feels almost communicative, as though they, too, are acknowledging the quiet transformation in the air, recognizing that something once tangled has been carefully, lovingly undone. You sit quietly with them, not speaking, not moving more than a slow breath at a time, and the night settles around you in a gentle embrace, the kind that encourages your thoughts to unwind, to drift toward the edges of dreams, where everything feels soft and distant. The wind rustles faintly through the tall grass, carrying with it the subtle scent of earth cooled by moonlight, a scent that grounds you while also beckoning your mind to wander. And as the minutes drift by, each one blending soft and seamless into the next, you feel your shoulders loosen, your heartbeat slow, and your breathing fall into a steady rhythm that mirrors the quiet lullaby of the night. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls in a low, melodic note, the sound rolling across the meadow like a single stroke of a bow against a cello string, deep and resonant, adding another layer of calm to the atmosphere around you. The world feels vast and close all at once, open and sheltered, quiet yet full of gentle murmurs that soothe without demanding anything more from you than presence. And as you lean back slightly on the bench, your eyes half-lidded beneath the silver glow of the moon, you feel the last remnants of the asylum's lingering weight slip quietly from your thoughts, replaced by a soft, lingering warmth, like the fading impression of a hand that once rested briefly and gratefully on your shoulder before dissolving into the night. Here, beneath the tree, surrounded by the slow dance of fireflies and the silent shimmer of stars, you feel the story settling inside you, not as a burden or mystery, but as a peaceful echo, a gentle memory that hums softly at the edge of your awareness, inviting you to breathe deeper, slower, quieter, as the night wraps itself around you in a steady, endless whisper. The night deepens further, folding itself around you like a velvet cloak, each star now appearing a touch brighter, as if the universe itself is leaning closer to whisper its own gentle, endless secrets, and the fireflies hover a little higher, drifting lazily in the cool air, their lights pulsing with the steady rhythm of your own heart, until it feels as if the entire world breathes in synchrony with you. The meadow stretching endlessly on all sides, yet feeling intimate, a quiet sanctuary carved out of the night just for this moment. And in that stillness, the faint rustle of leaves becomes a language, each sound a syllable of a story the earth has been telling for centuries. A story you can only understand by listening deeply, without expectation or interruption. And as you let yourself sink further into that calm, the distant memory of the asylum fades like mist in the morning sun, its dark corners and creaking halls replaced by the gentle shapes of moonlit grass, the soft, rounded shadows of trees, and the serene silhouette of hills beyond the meadow, all of them whispering reassurance that even the places once heavy with sorrow can dissolve into quiet peace, that history's even grim and haunting ones can settle, breathe, and rest when met with patient witness, and you feel a subtle, almost imperceptible warmth in your chest, an echo of gratitude for being allowed to hold space for what once could not rest. The wind picks up just slightly, brushing against your skin like a delicate caress, carrying with it the faint scent of blossoms you cannot see yet somehow sense, and the combination of movement, scent, and soft light feels like a lullaby crafted by the night itself. A rhythm meant to slow your mind and ease your body, encouraging you to drift toward the edges of dream, where everything is softened, fluid, and unhurried. Even your thoughts, which once clung to fragments of worry, hesitation, and lingering unease, now begin to loosen, coiling gently into patterns that rise and fall with the night air, like gentle waves lapping against a shore, each wave carrying away the residue of tension until all that remains is a quiet, luminous calm. You notice that the fireflies have gathered into a loose, circling pattern around the base of the tree, their tiny lights blinking in a quiet, mesmerizing cadence, as if orchestrating the rhythm of the night itself. And with each blink, a subtle serenity flows into you, a message without words that all is as it should be, that the world continues its endless turning, and yet you are held in this single, perfect moment of stillness where nothing is required of you except to be present, to inhale the cool, fragrant air and exhale the remnants of old burdens. Above, The stars shift imperceptibly, their constellations forming patterns that seem to hum softly, resonating with the slow pulse of your own heartbeat. And somewhere far away, the faint call of another owl punctuates the silence, its note carrying across the meadow like a single, low bell of reassurance, a reminder that life continues in quiet, infinite ways beyond the mind's worries and the night's darkness. And as your eyes wander across the gently swaying grass, the soft silver glow of moonlight creating delicate highlights that make each blade seem alive with its own tiny, secret energy, you feel yourself melting further into the bench beneath you, into the embrace of the night, into the gentle cadence of all the elements working together, the wind, the fireflies, the stars, the earth itself, to lull you into a state of deep, untroubled peace, a place where the past, the anxieties, the noises of life all fade into the soft background hum of existence itself, leaving only the gentle, enduring presence of the present moment, infinite in its calm, infinite in its softness. And as you breathe in this harmony, you realize that for the first time in a long while, nothing presses, nothing calls, nothing demands except the tender invitation to simply be. Here, now, under the ancient tree, bathed in silver light, cocooned in the serene heartbeat of a night that feels eternal and perfectly yours, quiet lullaby of the night. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls in a low, melodic note, the sound rolling across the meadow like a single stroke of a bow against a cello string, deep and resonant, adding another layer of calm to the atmosphere around you. The world feels vast and close all at once, open and sheltered, quiet yet full of gentle murmurs that soothe without demanding anything more from you than presence. And as you lean back slightly on the bench, your eyes half-lidded beneath the silver glow of the moon, you feel the last remnants of the asylum's lingering weight slip quietly from your thoughts, replaced by a soft, lingering warmth, like the fading impression of a hand that once rested briefly and gratefully on your shoulder before dissolving into the night. Here, beneath the tree, surrounded by the slow dance of fireflies and the silent shimmer of stars, you feel the story settling inside you, not as a burden or mystery, but as a peaceful echo, a gentle memory that hums softly at the edge of your awareness, inviting you to breathe deeper, slower, quieter. As the night wraps itself around you in a steady, endless whisper, the night seems to deepen even further, folding over the meadow like a soft, endless blanket, and with each breath you take, the cool air carries a whisper of the far-off forest, the scent of damp earth and hidden blossoms mixing in a way that feels almost like a secret language meant only for you, while the fireflies continue their slow, mesmerizing dance, tracing invisible circles that make the shadows of the grass stretch and shift like gentle waves. And somewhere in the distance, the faint, irregular hoot of an owl punctuates the quiet, its sound a grounding reminder that life continues in this serene, hushed realm, even as your thoughts drift, unanchored and free, along the slow current of the night. And in that drifting, you feel the weight of old worries loosening from your chest, dissolving quietly into the cool, fragrant air, leaving a light, expansive calm behind, a calm that feels as ancient and enduring as the stars themselves. which now shines with a clarity that almost seems to pulse in sympathy with your own heartbeat, each one a tiny, unwavering point of light in the infinite darkness, suggesting that even in the vast unknown, there is order, there is quiet, there is gentle, patient presence. And as your eyes wander over the rolling hills in the distance, bathed in soft, silver moonlight, you notice the subtle shimmer of dew on the tips of the grass, tiny mirrors catching the night's radiance and scattering it in delicate, unspoken patterns that seem to celebrate the quiet magic of the world. And as you let yourself absorb every sensation, the whisper of wind brushing your skin, the cool firmness of the earth beneath you, the soft chorus of nocturnal insects weaving a lullaby, you realize that each detail is a note in a symphony designed to soothe, to lull, to remind you that stillness is not emptiness, but a form of fullness, a deep, breathing presence that stretches beyond time and thought, embracing you completely in its quiet, infinite rhythm. And in this embrace, you sense that all of history, all of life, all of the fleeting moments of fear, sorrow, joy, and wonder can coexist in a gentle, boundless harmony, flowing past and through you without claim or judgment, leaving only the serene, luminous awareness that you are here now, in a space that exists simultaneously everywhere and nowhere, where every small rustle of a leaf, every flicker of firefly light, every whisper of wind carries the same soft, enduring truth that nothing is ever truly lost, that every shadow has its quiet counterpart of light, and that in this timeless, tender night, all things are held, all things are noticed, all things are allowed to simply be. And as you sink further into the cradle of that understanding, the world seems to expand and breathe with you, an infinite meadow of calm, of stillness, of gentle, everlasting presence, so vast yet intimate, so quiet yet filled with the soft, insistent hum of life unfolding perfectly in its own slow, deliberate, untroubled pace, until you feel as if you are not just sitting under the moonlight, but that you are the moonlight, the grass, the gentle night air, the slow pulse of the earth itself, and everything is exactly as it should be, a boundless, tender, infinite now. And as the night deepens, the edges of the world soften, the hard lines of reality blurring into something more fluid, more forgiving, as if the city itself has exhaled and allowed the streets, the alleys, the cobblestones, and the soot-darkened walls to melt gently into the shadows, leaving only shapes and textures that hint at stories untold, lives unfolding quietly behind shuttered windows and beneath dripping eaves, while the faint, rhythmic patter of distant rain begins to murmur over the rooftops, a soft percussion that adds its own gentle cadence to the world's nocturnal symphony. And somewhere beyond the fog that clings to the alleys like a lingering memory, the occasional lantern wavers, throwing slender, trembling shafts of golden light that illuminate the hints of movement. A cat darting silently across a narrow gap between buildings, a rat skittering along the base of a wall, a human figure hunched against the cold, carrying a bundle or whispering quietly to a child who shuffles close, seeking warmth and reassurance in the dark. And as you watch, you realize that the night is alive with countless such small dramas, each one intimate, fragile, and full of the quiet urgency that comes from living on the edge of survival, Yet within that urgency is a kind of beauty, the pure, unadorned rhythm of life persisting even in the harshest of conditions. And as you let your mind drift with the shapes, sounds, and scents, you begin to notice the smaller details, the way the mist clings to the rough stone walls, turning them into something softer, almost tactile in their imagined warmth. The faint smell of coal smoke lingering at the edges of the alley, mingling with the earthy damp of the recent rain. The soft rustle of someone moving stealthily across the street, careful not to wake sleeping neighbors. The occasional burst of laughter or cough. Human life pressing itself through the stillness, fragile yet insistently present. Each sound a testament to perseverance. And in that, you feel a quiet kinship with the invisible lives weaving through the night. A sense that even when the world seems unkind, even when roofs leak and fires rage and sickness whispers in the walls, there is a relentless, stubborn pulse of existence, a continuity that refuses to be broken, that threads together the experiences of strangers, friends, children, and elders, drawing you into a collective awareness of survival and hope that is neither loud nor triumphant, but quiet, steady, and infinitely resilient. Like the faint glow of dawn that will one day spill over the rooftops, brushing the streets with light that feels soft and yet insistent, promising a new day, a chance to witness again the fragile victories, the shared meals, the small acts of kindness, the fleeting moments of joy that make even the darkest corners bearable. And as you imagine this coming day, you sense the intricate weave of human lives, the overlapping patterns of care, struggle, laughter, grief, and resilience, stretching across alleys and courts, filling rooms with the muted energy of existence that cannot be extinguished. And in that realization, the night's quiet becomes a sanctuary, a space to breathe and watch, to absorb the richness of life in its most elemental form, to feel both the weight of history and the lightness of fleeting moments, to know that though tomorrow will bring more cold, more hardship, more uncertainty, there is also the possibility of gentle victories, small mercies, the rare smile, the unexpected gesture, the whisper of someone saying, "I see you," or "You are not alone." And in these moments, the night, the rain, the faint stars above, the lamplight trembling in the fog, the silent figures moving through shadowed streets, all of it coalesces into an unspoken lesson, a reminder that even in hardship, even in relentless struggle, life finds its way, carving out spaces for tenderness, for connection, for survival that is both communal and intimate. And as you linger in that understanding, letting it wash over you like a slow, cleansing tide, the world becomes both larger and smaller at once, vast in its complexity, yet intimate in its small gestures, its quiet rhythms, the minutiae of daily endurance that together form an intricate, unseen tapestry, binding the fates of strangers and friends alike. And in that tapestry, you feel a fragile hope, a sense that despite fire and flood, disease and poverty, the pulse of human resilience beats steadily, invisibly, insistently, carrying each small life forward through the night, to laugh, to grieve, to hope, and to endure. So you close your eyes for a moment, just a moment, letting yourself become part of that rhythm, part of that tapestry, breathing in the damp, fragrant air of the alleys, listening to the distant echo of footsteps, the soft clatter of shutters, the quiet sigh of the wind through chimney stacks, feeling the subtle vibration of a city that never truly sleeps but continues to persist, to survive, to unfold its infinite stories. And in that vast, ceaseless continuity, you discover a kind of peace that is neither loud nor triumphant, but steady, enduring, and quietly luminous. A peace born not of absence of struggle, but of acknowledgement, presence, and the stubborn, unyielding insistence of life to keep moving forward. One breath, one heartbeat, one night, one day at a time.